There are many stages and levels to creating a video game. From ideas to coding, programming, motion capture, a lot of thought is put into creating a video game. But one of the most overlooked department and aspects is the creativity that goes behind these video games. Hello, my name is Babak Baravani, and I've studied the video game industry for many years and even discussed with some of the world's most renowned video game writers who have worked on games such as Mass Effect, Deus Ex, and Assassin's Creed. In this video, I will cover what video game writing and creativity really means, the challenges, benefits, and problems faced in the industry, and also how to find a job or role in this very niche-specific field. There are many creative roles in the video gaming industry, such as graphic designer, narrative designer, artist, writer, creative director, but one of the most desired and important roles is that of a video game writer. Video game writing is the art and craft of writing scripts and narratives for video games. Just like screenwriting, it is typically a freelance profession.
First of all, let's talk about what exactly the game writer's job is on a game team. What does a game writer do? According to Darby, the writer's job changes quite a lot over the course of the game's development cycle. Early in the game, during the conception phase, the writer spends a lot of time doing research. For example, if your game is to be set in a certain historical time period, then you'd need to read up on that time period to help you develop an understanding of what it was like for people living at that time, how people talked and dressed, and other aspects of the world that could inspire the game's story and characters and make the game feel more authentic. That's the conception phase.
Video game writing is actually one of the most obscure and difficult niches to get into when it comes to the video game industry. Why? Because it is seen as a royalty. Only a few companies can really afford video game writers, and these tend to be the companies that make AAA games. Most companies believe they either don't need the writers, or they can't afford them, or they put someone who's already doing coding or level design to be the game's writer. One of the reasons why companies rarely hire video game writers is because unlike coding or programming or motion capture, they do not need professionals who've had years of practice to do it for them. They can simply have anyone on their team write a story, even if that story isn't really good. Now, when it comes to major AAA video game companies such as BioWare, Ubisoft, Bethesda, all of them have many video game writers because they understand the value that they can bring. But that's still not without its issues, because even those companies, once they've found a few good writers, they have no reason to go out and find more. It is not like a technical job where somebody comes in and leaves the next day for a better salary. Video game writers that are actually hired by companies tend to stay for a long period of time, sometimes even up to decades. One of the biggest misconceptions in video game writing is that the video game writer comes up with great ideas and the whole story. That is almost never the case. Usually the writers actually get their orders from the lead writer that is above them, and he gets his orders from the creative director, and the creative director is the role that has complete creative control over what's going on in a video game, all the way from story, combat mechanics, narrative design. He is basically seen as the game master. From the creative director is the story and ideas passed down to the lead writer, who then works with the other regular writers that are below him in rank to work with them on actually fleshing out the story and doing something with the bullet points that the creative director provides. So the job of a video game writer is actually mostly to flesh things out and to write dialogue that actually makes the characters believable and feel like real people and create tension.
Last chance to walk away.
We ain't frails. We know who you work for.
Salieri might have been the big six when he was younger, but he's all washed up now. It's only a matter of time before Morello punches his ticket.
I don't need Salieri. Or anyone else. Not for this.
Well, then let's see what you got, Cake Eater.
When it comes to creative roles in the video game industry, they're actually the roles that require the most team effort. Video game writers, narrative designers, lead writers, they all work with every other department of the video games team because the story has to be synchronized with the video games engine, the level design, the length, what the CEO has in mind, the technical limits, the budget. So say if a writer wants a beautiful mission where there's a castle and there's these vast outlands, but the video game's budget or coders and graphic designers don't have the time or the means to do so, the video game writer needs to change the story to make it fit within the technical limits and the budget and the time constraints of what the company can do. That is why coordination with all other departments is required for this effort. One might also ask, how do these creative roles such as the graphic designer, the creative director actually get their inspirations? Well, the number one answer is immersion. Not only do they immerse themselves in books, movies, and video games that people before them made that they look up to, but they also always sit down with everybody else on the team and discuss potential ideas, stories, and scenarios, just like having a normal conversation. And from there comes many ideas that nobody would have been able to come up with on their own. This is actually how Assassin's Creed 2's plot was created. The story for Assassin's Creed 2 actually went through major changes and ended up being completely different from what was originally planned, all because the narrative lead and the level programmers along with a writer had a conversation around a coffee table.
Video games scripts and inspiration to make video games comes from anywhere. Going to the zoo, going to a museum, playing games with your friends, anywhere in life that you walk, talk, and interact, that is a place where they could spark designs and ideas for creation of a video game.
But even the creative director is not the final decision maker on what happens in the video game's design when it comes to story, combat, levels, art style. The person who has complete control over absolutely everything, even more than the creative director / game master, is the company's CEO. And very rarely are the company CEOs the same people that are also the creative director. Rockstar Sam Houser, who is the CEO, is also the lead writer and creative director. Quantic Dream's David Cage is also the CEO and the creative director of his company. So how does one actually get creative roles when it comes to a video game? The number one thing that people look for is past examples and connections. Another less known way to get in as well is actually to get into a role that is more typical and on demand, such as a coder, level designer, and then work your way up to a creative role. This actually happens more than you think. And if I had to add my own personal recommendation, I currently think that in 2020, the best way to get a creative role in the industry is to work on mods. So mods are projects that people make that can be added to a game, kind of as a community-made DLC that extends the game, but it is not made by the company itself.
Advice I would give for someone who is trying to get into script writing is to get on the internet and find a general game design document, take a look at what those design documents look like, and then start to create your own scripts, your own storylines, and outlay them into what is called a GDD, a game design document. That's what's the main tool for communicating your concept and ideas to the team that's making the development of the game.
I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I wish you the best of luck in your venture to finding out more and being part of the video game creative industry.